And we back. Now y'all know the NBA offseason is pretty much all but over, so I think it's a perfect time to drop the grading every team offseason video. There's a few things you got to get straight before we get into the first team. Number one is all of my grades are relative to what the team's plan is. Quick example, a team that is rebuilding is not going to get an F for me because they didn't make steps to win now, because that's not their objective. Their objective is not to go out and get a big name free agent. Their objective is to take a step back and accumulate young players or future assets. Or on the vice versa side, I may give a team that's trying to win now a bad grade, even though their team is good, but they didn't make a necessary move to make their team better. All right, so keep that in mind. The second thing I got to get straight is that these are all my opinions. You know, in the comment section below, I would love for you to give what you believe your team deserves as far as the offseason grades. But again, it's my opinion. If you don't like opinions, I recommend you click off the video right now. But let's get into the first team, the Atlanta Hawks. Travis Slank, who is the GM of the Atlanta Hawks now, had an objective going into the NBA draft, and that is to draft the Warriors 2.0. This was his idea. You got Trae Young as the Stephen Curry. You got Kevin Huerter as the Klay Thompson, and you got Mari Spellman as the Draymond Green. Now, that may not work out the way he wanted to, but he had an objective, and he's trying to execute that. And he also traded in a shooter who wasn't really happy with his role or the future of this team, and got back a future first-round pick. So I'm going to give them a B. Let's move on to the second team. With the Dallas Mavericks, I went out and gave them a B. Now, in the beginning of last year, Mark Cuban came out and said that he wanted to tank for 1 year, and then he wanted to get back into winning. And if that was their objective, I think they made the necessary moves to get back there. They made a draft day trade they were going to be talking about for years and years, and they got in Luka Doncic. Not only does he has immense potential, but I think he's one of the rookies that can come in and help them win now. And they went out to get DeAndre Jordan, another win now component. Now, do I think that the Dallas Mavericks roster is enough to win now? No, but if that was their objective, I think they made the necessary moves to get to that point, so I gave them a B. The Boston Celtics didn't do anything. They didn't make any changes to their roster. They went out and re-signed Marcus Smart, which is beautiful, and Aaron Baines, which is also beautiful. This is a team that was one of the best teams in the league, made a big playoff run without their best two players, so why would they make any big moves? They brought back some of the heart and the defense of this squad and Marcus Smart, and I think that is enough to give them a B+. They didn't do anything to hurt that roster, and that's perfect. The Denver Nuggets get an A- from me, and that is because last year they had Devin Harris as their backup point guard. You know, Devin Harris, he wasn't terrible, but if you're in a win-now situation, you need a better backup point guard, and now they have Isaiah Thomas, who we can probably agree is a better backup point guard than Devin Harris, and then they got him on a league minimum. And they also, in the NBA draft, potentially got to steal the draft for Michael Porter Jr. if he can stay healthy. And I think that everything they did this offseason, even including re-signing Will Barton and trading Kenneth Faried, Darrell Arthur, all these moves, is ultimately going to give them an A-. So I'm editing this video and I realized that I forgot to talk about a few teams. One of those teams is my favorite team. How is that possible? I don't really know, but we're going to get it done right now. Chicago Bulls. I gave them a B+. And they brought back Zach LaVine, who's a piece of our young core, but the main reason it's a B+ is because they took the chance with Jabari Parker. Jabari Parker still has a lot of potential left, man. He showed flashes in the playoffs, so he can still be a very, very good player in this league. And we took that chance, and I am super, super happy about it. And one of the reasons that I'm happy about it is because we didn't give him like crazy money. We had to spend that money. We gave him a 1+1. So if this 1 year doesn't work out and Jabari Parker gets injured or he doesn't turn out to be good, we just don't bring him back next year. I think that's a huge W. Bring back Zach LaVine. B+. Brooklyn Nets. Sean Marks continues to be a wizard, turning nothing into something. They made a few trades this offseason. They made the trade to bring in Dwight Howard, got rid of Timofey Mozgov, then got rid of Dwight Howard. They bring in Kenneth Faried and Darrell Arthur and a first-round pick. And then he continues to leave flexibility for next offseason where they're going to have the cap space to potentially bring in 2 max players. They have the draft picks for the future. Sean Marks, offseason, Brooklyn Nets, A. Houston Rockets. I gave them a C+ because personally I believe that Trevor Ariza and Bob Moute were very important for that team's success. I know Ba Moute didn't play much in the playoffs because he was coming back from an injury, but even the regular season effectiveness of Ba Moute was there. He stretched the floor for them, which is surprising because in his NBA career, he's never really been that great of a three-point shooter. But when you play alongside Chris Paul and James Harden, I guess your three-point gets boosted up. And even Trevor Ariza, these guys were their best defending wing players, and now they're gone. And they replaced it with Carmelo Anthony, who we can agree is not that good defensively. So I think that they took a small step back. So because of that, they get a C+. Next, we got the Charlotte Hornets. I gave them a C- because I really don't know where they're headed. They traded their second best player from last year, Dwight Howard, for pretty much nothing. And now I don't know if they're in a win now mentality or they're taking a step back. So because of that, C-. Golden State Warriors, A+. Bob Myers has done it again. And that's bringing in talent for pretty much nothing. Of course, y'all know DeMarcus Cousins is now on the squad. He probably won't play until like the All-Star breakage, but regardless, he's going to give that team another look. They've never had a big man or a center that can score the ball. And now they do. The team that was that's been the most overpowered team for the past few years just got a little bit better. An underrated signing for me was Jonas Jerebko, who can also shoot the ball pretty well. The Cavaliers got a D+, and I'm not even mad at them that they lost LeBron. There's nothing they really can do. We all knew that LeBron probably wasn't re-signing. So that's not why I gave them that grade. The reason I gave them that grade is because they believe that they can still compete. I don't feel that way. Could they make the playoffs? Sure, but that's not really competing. I think they should have took a step back, made the trade, just let their young guys play, but I don't know if that's the direction they're going. The Lakers get an A. So Kenny, how do they not get an A+? They just brought in the best player of our generation to their squad. Yes, they got LeBron now, which is perfect. But the other signings of Rajon Rondo, JaVale McGee, Lance Stevenson, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for $12 million, Michael Beasley, all of those, everything besides LeBron they did this offseason was pretty questionable. Could it work out? For sure. They got LeBron now. But I'm still not convinced that those other signings are going to really, really help them. One reason that it's not like an A- is because everybody that I did mention is on a one-year deal, which means that next year they're going to have cap flexibility to sign another star to put alongside LeBron. But if we're talking about this offseason, it's an A. Last team I forgot to talk about was the LA Clippers. I really like their offseason. I'm giving them the B+. They continue to rebuild their team while also staying competitive, and they're leaving some space open for the future. Next year, they have 2 max player spots. Are they going to sign 2 max players? Who knows? But it's LA, so they could. You know, they fired Bruce Bowen because he was talking crap about Kawhi Leonard because they want Kawhi Leonard. I really like their offseason, man. They're going to be a team that's going to be fun to watch. And also, they'll be prepared for next offseason. Detroit Pistons get a C+. They didn't have much wiggle room to do anything big because of Stan Van Gundy just really messed them up as far as cap. But the reason they get a C+ is mostly because of the coaching change. Dwayne Casey. Dwayne Casey is a very good coach in this league. You know, a lot of teams switch coaches this offseason. And the reason why Dwayne Casey is perfect for them, because they have a roster that they want to compete. They want to make the playoffs. Some teams that we're going to mention went out to sign first-year coaches. And I don't think that would have been the right decision for them because they need a guy that can help them win right now. And Dwayne Casey could definitely be that guy. This team is a team that should make the playoffs this year with Blake Griffin and Drummond and then Reggie Jackson. I gave them a C+. Next, we got the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm giving them a C. The one big thing they did, they replaced Tyreek Evans with Kyle Anderson. The reason it's a C and not a C- is because Jaren Jackson Jr. and Summer League look pretty solid, and that's always a positive when your young draft pick looks good in Summer League. So C. Next, we got the Indiana Pacers. I gave them an A-. I love their offseason. They pretty much got better without giving up anything. You know, they bring in Tyreek Evans, and I've stressed this before. As long as they play him at point guard and he can stay healthy, that is one of the best signings of this offseason. They bring in Doug McDermott, which I don't really like the amount of money they gave him, but some more shooting to the team. And Kyle O'Quinn is a guy that has expressed that he wants to play for a winning team. Indiana Pacers took LeBron to Game 7, so they are definitely a winning team. A-, Indiana Pacers. Minnesota Timberwolves get a C-. This is one of those teams that are trying to win now, but didn't do anything this offseason to get them better than what they were last year. They bring in Anthony Tolliver, but that doesn't really help that much. Resign Derrick Rose, which is okay. C- just because they didn't make steps to get better. Miami Heat. C. They didn't do anything. They brought back Wayne Ellington. Just a C. Just average because I don't even know what else to grade them on. The Pelicans get a B-. They lose DeMarcus Cousins and Rajon Rondo. That's okay. But the reason I'm giving them a B-, where some people may give them like a C or C-, is because I like the Julius Randle signing a lot. He's just another one of those hustle guys who can get you a rebound and just go the full length of the court. He's a bully down there. I like him as a player, and I think he may fit well with Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis has the ability to shoot the ball pretty well. And they try to replace Rajon Rondo and Elfrid Payton. That's still a question mark for me, but I think a B- is a very solid grade for the New Orleans Pelicans. Next, we got the Milwaukee Bucks. I gave them a B+. I love the coaching signing of Coach Bud, man. Coach Bud has been one of the most underrated coaches for the past couple years. He's made the playoffs every year as a head coach, except for last year. But if you look at that roster, nobody was leading that team to a playoff spot. I just think that last year they didn't have a coach. They really didn't. That interim coach they had after Jason Kidd, he didn't help them get better. Coach Bud has that. Coach Bud has coached some of the best defensive teams in his era, you know? And I love that. And I also love the extra shooting they get in Brook Lopez and Ersan Ilyasova. B+, but I'm teetering closer to an A- now that I'm talking about it, man. Coach Bud as their coach is going to be great. OKC Thunder get an A. They have a legitimate backup point guard in Dennis Schroeder. No longer is it Samaje Christian. No longer is it Raymond Felton, even though Raymond Felton's still on the squad. They have a legitimate backup point guard. They haven't had that since Reggie Jackson, but I think we can agree a now Dennis Schroeder is better than a young Reggie Jackson, you know? And now they have a backup center for Steven Adams. No longer is it Dakari Johnson. They have Nerlens Noel. I really like their offseason. No longer have Melo. They now can focus on winning. I really think they should be a better team than they were last year, and that's great. A. Let Russell Westbrook get a little bit more rest now that he ain't got to really rely on Raymond Felton. New York Knicks get a B-. They didn't do much this offseason, but I really like their draft, and Kevin Knox and Mitchell Robinson both impressed me in Summer League, and I really like Coach Fizdale. Portland Trail Blazers get a C-. They did not do anything to improve their team. They're going to continue to be a tier 2, tier 3 team because they have not made any adjustments to get better. Orlando Magic get a C. The reason it's a C and not a C- or D+ is because of Mo Bamba. I really believe that guy has a lot of potential to be great. I don't necessarily agree with the signing of Steve Clifford because Steve Clifford is kind of one of those coaches that wants to win now. And if you look at that roster, that's not a win now roster. And another reason why it's not a higher grade is because they did not go out and get a starting quality point guard. If you ask me, DJ Augustin is probably going to be their starting one, which is solid, but let's be real, they probably need something better. The Spurs get a B for me. Y'all know the trade that happened. They get rid of Kawhi, bring in DeMar DeRozan. That's pretty much what they did. The reason it's a B for me is because Kawhi Leonard wasn't there really last year. He played like 9 games, and they still won 47 games without him. Now you're bringing DeMar DeRozan, who takes some pressure off LaMarcus Aldridge. They should win. They should win about 50 games this year. And I think that's great. So a B. Philly is going to get a C for me. They lose Ersan Ilyasova and Marco Bellinelli, which is no surprise because they were buyout players. You know, very rarely do a player on buyout resign. But the reason it's a C is because they didn't get players to replace them. If you take a look at their second unit, there's not much shooting there. And guys like Marco Bellinelli and Ersan Ilyasova really helped them late in the season until their playoff run. Ben Simmons is a player that needs plenty of shooters around him. And now without Marco and Ersan and nobody really to replace them, maybe Wilson Chandler, he's not that great of a three-point shooter. I think they took a small step back, but they're still going to be one of the best teams in the league because they have Ben Simmons and they have JoJo. I just think that they don't have those players that fit like a glove with Ben Simmons anymore. The Kings are going to get a C for me. They didn't really do much. They bring in Bielitsa and Yogi Ferrell, draft Marvin Bagley. That was their offseason, you know? It's a C. The Toronto Raptors get an A, but they got a little asterisk mark above it because it all really depends on if Kawhi Leonard resigns. But we're just going to say that he does, and now they have a top 5 player in this league if he's 100% healthy and he plays like he played 2 years ago. A top 5 player in this league, and that is beautiful. And they also bring in Danny Green, which is a very underrated piece in that trade, and now they're going to be, again, one of the better defensive teams in the league. And no LeBron in the East, they're definitely going to be competing to be the winner of the Eastern Conference, and that's great. The Suns get a B. I was thinking about giving them a B- until I realized that they're gonna probably play Devin Booker a lot at point guard, and I like that. They bring in Trevor Ariza, who's got some veteran leadership, and they got a lot of wing players that are long and can defend. I'm not saying that this team is gonna win 45 games, but don't be surprised if they make some type of noise. The Washington Wizards are gonna get a B+ for me, and the reason it's a B+ is because they did something that the Portland Trail Blazers didn't. They did not have much cap flexibility. They did not have money to give out to players, but somehow they made moves to get better. They make the trade, pick up Austin Rivers. They get Dwight Howard on the buyout market, and they sign Jeff Green for close to a minimum. Those are 3 players that can legitimately help them win more this year, and that's huge. That's what I've been saying about, I don't know how this gets back to the Portland Trail Blazers, but this is the type of offseason that the Portland Trail Blazers could have had, but they didn't. So shout out to the Washington Wizards for making their team better without getting rid of their top guys in John Wall and Bradley Beal. And lastly, the Utah Jazz are going to get a B+ for me, and they didn't do anything this offseason. They basically just brought all the guys back. This is a team that surprised the world, went to the playoffs, surprised the world again, getting out of the first round, and instead of doing anything drastic to their roster, they just brought the boys back. Everybody's back from last year, and I think that is the best offseason they could have had, so that's my grade. And that's it. Those are my offseason grades. Again, these are all my opinion. In the comment section below, let me know what you agree or disagree on, and let me know what you would grade your favorite team's offseason. If you're at this point, the very end, there may have been something that you enjoyed, so go ahead and hit that like button. It helps the channel out. And if you're new around here, subscribe, man. A lot of y'all ain't subscribed, so go ahead and hit that subscription button, baby. Thank y'all so much. We'll be back tomorrow. Peace.